How's it going, champions? So this is going to be a different kind of a video. It's probably not going to have the best editing, loads of stock photos, not great art, and be a little bit more off the cuff. It's not a rant by any means. It's just me talking about something that I've recently gone through, trying to work out why it hit so hard, and ultimately changing me for the better. So let's summarize things a little bit, and then we'll move forward. I've always been a trophy hunter. As of writing this, I've got a little bit over 300 platinums. It's something I've always been really proud of, and it's always given me a sense of joy and achievement, pun intended. I've often joked that it's my drug. Now, if you haven't heard of it, there's a website called PSNProfiles. It's a pretty cool website. You can link your PlayStation account to it, track your trophies. It has loads of guides. You can create boosting sessions with other people, and it's just your one-stop shop for trophy hunting. So I've been using PSNProfiles for several years now, but the other day, disaster hit. I got banned. Now you're probably thinking to yourself, dude, how'd you get banned on a trophy website? Were you doing something shady? And the answer is honestly no. No, I wasn't. But I did do something that they took exception to, and that was having custom firmware on a PS3. Now this isn't a rant about them not liking custom firmware. It's their own website and they can do whatever they want. But I would like to take a small little moment to explain why I've got it and then explain how the ban happened. I have custom firmware on a couple of consoles. I have it on a PS3 and I have it on a Vita TV. The reason I got into custom firmware and the homebrew scene wasn't to do anything shady like hack trophies, cheating, or messing with people online. It was actually something a little bit wholesome, and that's accessibility. Now, I won't go into great detail, but I actually have cerebral palsy in my right side. I play games with one hand. That's not bragging or anything like that. It's just that's what I have to do. That's how I play games. Now, many moons ago, when the Vita first came out, there were several games that I really wanted to play, but it would be impossible with one hand. Then a few years later, Sony released the PlayStation TV. Effectively, it's a Vita without a screen that you can plug into a TV. Now I could finally play all the games that I wanted, or so I thought to myself. But there was a problem. Not every Vita game works on the PlayStation TV. This wasn't a compatibility issue. It's because developers can actively choose whether to support the console or not. If they felt the game wouldn't work properly without the Vita's touchscreen, they could effectively put the game on a blacklist. And if that's the case, the PlayStation TV doesn't even launch the game. The game I wanted to play was Assassin's Creed Liberation, and Assassin's Creed Liberation's on the list. Now this is where I found custom firmware jailbreaking in the homebrew scene. By installing custom firmware on the PlayStation TV, I could then install a plugin that would remove that list. Now I can play Assassin's Creed Liberation and go on my journey of platinuming every Assassin's Creed game. It's a similar story with the PS3. This time it wasn't for accessibility, it was actually for game preservation. Specifically, there's games on the PlayStation Store that have been removed that were downloadable only. There was a game that I really wanted to play, which was a JoJo's Bizarre Adventure game, which is now impossible to legally play or own. So you might be thinking to yourself, dude, are you sure you haven't hacked any trophies with custom firmware? Here's the thing, there are loads of games that now have unattainable trophies because of multiplayer servers being shut down or online features that no longer exist. These trophies stare at me and eat at my soul. They look at me every day going, just do it. I'm looking at you, GTA 5 and Ghostbusters on PS3. So with these games, I still haven't unlocked them, I haven't got the platinum, and if I haven't done them for these games that are really important to me, I think that proves that I haven't done it. One last thing to add is custom firmware can actually help a broken console run properly, whether it helped fix issues with a drive or a fan, and other people even use them to actually make retro consoles. So the custom firmware and the homebrew scene is really vibrant, it's full of amazing people, and I think there are genuine reasons to jailbreak legacy consoles. So with that, I will climb my disabled ass down off my tiny soapbox. So at this point, you're like, okay, dude, you got custom firmware and you weren't doing anything dodgy. How did you get banned? And that's because I did a little faux pas. To make it a little bit quicker, I'm just going to go through all the steps here of what happened. So I have two PS3s, I have a main one, and I have one that's jailbroken. The main one was off getting repaired. So this bit's a little bit technical, so I'll keep it simple. I was using the second console that has custom firmware. That second console also has a flat CMOS battery. I played a game, got a few trophies, and then sync those trophies. Now, what was explained to me later on PSNProfiles is that combination of having the custom firmware and a flat CMOS battery makes it so those trophies have a timestamp of when that battery went flat. So those several trophies that I got all had the exact same timestamp. PSNProfiles cheating system, seen that I had trophies with the exact same timestamp, assumed I was cheating and banned me. Now, when I say banned, I don't just mean removed from the leaderboards. They completely removed me from the website. Now, at first, I didn't know what had happened. I went onto the forums and tried to work out why I'd been banned. They were like, "You're using custom firmware." And I'm like, "Yeah, I was. I wasn't keeping a secret. I didn't feel like I had anything to hide." Then that's when I checked the timestamps, realized something had happened. And they explained, "Okay, yeah, that's because of the CMOS battery." I was like, "Okay, cool, well, what do we do now?" They're like, "Nothing, you've been removed." Now, obviously, this was a little frustrating. I was like, "Okay, I understand what's happened, you've understand what's happened. Can't I just hide that game from my trophy list? Wouldn't that fix everything?" They're like, "No, you've been removed. Our programmer hasn't coded in a way to unremove people." So that's it. I was removed. What's done is done. I won't complain about it too much. However, the one thing I will say is I do feel like I was judged for having custom firmware. Like I was some type of scum, and I don't like that. The second thing I don't like is the fact that they believed me, they understood what had happened, but it didn't matter. We haven't designed or programmed a way to undo the system that we put in place. Now that's all I'll say about that, because this is a story about how my life changed for the better. So at this point, you're probably thinking to yourself, "Okay, dude, you got banned from a trophy website. Big whoop. Big deal. What's the problem? This is a nothing burger with a side of big creamy nothing. What's the go?" And the thing is, you're absolutely right. You are 100% right. Let's break down the reality of the situation here. My account has been removed from a trophy website. That's it. I can still largely use that website. I can still look at guides. If I make a new profile, I can still create boosting sessions and just tell people to add another account. I can't see my progress on that website, and other people can't see that progress, but let's be real, who's looking? There are other websites I can use. I did hide that game, so there's no risk of being banned. Incidentally, it's One Piece Pirate Warriors. I do love me some One Piece. Anyway, so the point is, I don't actually need PSNProfiles. As I said before, I'd only been using it for several years, and I'd been trophy hunting long before that. Nothing's happened to my PSN account. I can still trophy hunt. And probably most importantly, at the end of the day, it is just trophies. So at most, this is a mild inconvenience at best. And more importantly, I know that. So what the hell is the problem? The next bit is really hard to talk about. Not because it's bad or I want to keep anything a secret or anything like that. It's hard because I'm genuinely not a good enough writer to convey the depths of what I went through emotionally without it sounding like a severe overreaction. I literally don't have the words. The best I can do is just describe the symptoms, how I felt internally, and my extreme confusion about the whole situation. So what happened next emotionally is something, and I mean this with all sincerity, was a healthy mix of grief from someone dying and some kind of drug withdrawal. A whole gambit of emotions opened up that I didn't understand. It started with an extreme sense of loss that I can only plainly describe as a hole in me, like something taken was gone. I had extreme anxiety and no energy. For a couple of nights, I couldn't even sleep. It was almost like I couldn't work out how to move forward. As I keep stating, I didn't understand what was happening. This is literally beyond stupid. Trying to get past this, I started playing a game. I got a few trophies that popped naturally. But every time this happened, I got this weird sense of dread, almost like I was doing something wrong. The only way I can describe this is if I was on drugs and they had somehow destroyed my life. But now here I was taking more drugs. As I was struggling and ultimately failing to understand the emotions that was going on, this led me to ask a question. Was my life a lie? Had I wasted a large portion of my life getting and stressing about trophies? I'll get to those thoughts in a moment, but right now I was on the craziest emotional roller coaster I'd ever been on. On one end, I hated this feeling so much I genuinely wanted to sell my game collection. I'm like, I'm done, I'm over it, I don't want to do this anymore. Then I'd say to myself, dude, this is stupid. Let's go get some trophies. There's no problem. But when I did, I got this sense of dread that I mentioned before, like I was doing something wrong. something that I shouldn't be. I thought about how all this had started, why I was doing this, and what was causing the problem. Story time! So I've always been a Sony guy, not a hardcore fanboy working in a game shop, killed that for me, but PlayStation's always been my bag. When the 360 came out and it had achievements, I was kind of jealous. It was like 360 players have more to do in a game. After some time, Sony finally released trophies and updates started rolling out for games. I was a happy chappy. My boss at the time had suggested a race. Who could be the first to level 10? And it was on. But we took completely different paths. I was all about getting the platinum. I wanted to get every trophy for every game I played. He, on the other hand, would play a game, finish it, and just quickly move on to the next game. It was definitely quality versus quantity. And so he took the lead. And at that point on, I was always chasing him. Even as the years went on, we're not even actually friends anymore, I'd periodically check his profile to see if I'd overtaken him yet. There was no stakes, nothing to gain, yet this was important. A couple of years ago, I actually passed him. I was happy, but there was a sense of, well, now what? In a strange way, it kind of became my identity. I was the trophy guy. It's what I do. It's who I was. Again, it made me happy, but I think about all the things that I've done to get trophies. There's a trophy in Mortal Kombat 9 where you have to play as each character for 24 hours in real time. This is a big deal because it's a fighting game. Most matches only go for, 20, 30 seconds? So what I would do is start a match, leave my PS3 on overnight, and over the course of about a month, I got an extremely rare trophy. I also got an extremely high power bill, but we won't talk about that. I would borrow other people's PS3s so I could get multiplayer trophies on my own. There's a trophy in Far Cry 2 for winning a full game online. This means that you have to play with 16 people. Now, when the game very first came out, this was actually pretty easy. All it meant was you just had to play Team Deathmatch in a full game and be on the winning side. Now finding 16 people is borderline impossible. I joined a boosting session, and over the course of a couple of months it slowly built up. Then finally the day was set and all was well. Until it wasn't. A few days before we were set to play, my gallbladder rudely exploded. Lying in hospital bed in some of the worst pain that I'd ever been in my whole entire life, I wasn't thinking about the pain. I was thinking, am I going to miss out on my trophy? Luckily, hours before the boosting session started, I was discharged and made it home. I remember jumping on the Discord chat, telling everyone my story and that I'd made it back in time. One guy commented, "Trophy hunters are a different breed. The things we do for a PNG." The thing is, in a strange way, I kind of made getting trophies my job. It's what I thought about most of the time when I'd play games. I wasn't necessarily enjoying the game. I was thinking about, okay, what do I need to do? Is there any missable trophies that I need to worry about? Even though no one was applauding my efforts, for some reason I felt like I needed to do this. And it wasn't even a case of a game-by-game basis. I would think I need to platinum every game in the series. Sometimes it wasn't even that, it was every single format of the game, whether it be PS3, PS4, or PS5. And even while playing, I'd already be thinking about the next game in the backlog I had to get through. Now, I do want to take a small moment to defend myself here. I've kind of painted a picture of a loser that does nothing but get trophies, and that's not completely true. I'm currently studying for a new career, it's going well, I'm moderately social, and I'm actually focused on my fitness and health. I've lost 25 kilos in the last year, go me. So I'm not sitting down and getting trophies 24/7, but any spare moment that I have, and the majority of my time, I'm thinking about trophies and what I need to do next, and if I need to find people online to get trophies that I can't get on my own. As I've stated a couple of times, there's no one around me who's impressed by this, yet for some strange reason I feel like I have to do this. The reality is, over the past several years of my life, things have been really tough. Specifically, the last year of my life is literally the hardest I've ever gone through. Trophies have always been this thing that, pun intended, filled me with achievement. And now, because of getting this ban, it had made me question, was it all a waste of time? Had I really put so much effort into something for absolutely no reason? So here I was, trying to get out of the small hell I'd created, feeling anxious and physically sick in the stomach, questioning my life and wanting to sell my game collection. Should I stop, or should I keep trying to move forward with trophy hunting? It seems somewhat obvious, but the truth would lie somewhere in the middle, yet I couldn't find it. I wanted to get help from friends, but this whole situation seemed beyond stupid. As real as it felt to me, how do I explain to friends, yeah, I got banned on this website and I'm currently having an existential crisis? I told a few friends and they were very polite. They were like, oh, okay, yeah, that sucks. That must be hard. They were really sweet, but I needed to solve this problem. How do I get rid of this nothing burger on my back that's destroying my life? The answer came from someone I didn't expect. I'd shyly and embarrassingly opened up to another friend. I forgot this friend was currently studying psychology and was extremely interested in the way the mind works. To my surprise, the whole thing was quite fascinating to him, like this was some new case study, and so began my strange counseling session. I explained my situation, I got banned on a website, and now it's somehow destroyed my life. I feel depression, grief, withdrawals, and yet there's no real problem. I can basically keep doing everything that I'm already doing, yet it feels like my whole life has fallen apart, and more importantly, I don't understand why. Now, the first few things he said is fairly obvious both to me and to anyone else that gets trophies. Trophies are a dopamine hit. You get one trophy, you feel good, you move on to the next one. You get the platinum trophy, it feels really good, and you move on to the next one. And this happens over and over again, and it's called a dopamine loop. So what he said to me was nothing new. I completely understood all of this. I knew that I was sort of trying to impress someone that wasn't really there. I get it. What I don't get is simply getting banned from a website has wrecked me. Logically, I'm fine, but emotionally, there's something inside of me that's tearing me apart. Something so stupid that I don't even know how to talk about it. Even as I sit here writing this script, it's borderline embarrassing. Now, I'm somewhat paraphrasing what he said here, but this is the general gist. He said, "It sounds like you lost your anger. It's not the website, it's the routine. It was your game plan of what you needed to do next, and the validation that your brain gave you to chase that next dopamine hit and the next platinum. Now that chain is broken, like a ritual you relied on, especially when your life wasn't giving you wins. You're grieving basically not the website, but what it represents, your safe little world where you were the best. It makes sense you were depressed. It feels like grief because it basically is. Psychologically, it's what we call disenfranchised grief. This was a new term to me, disenfranchised grief, and I'm not saying that properly, and I know I'm not. Now being oversimplified by a dumbass is basically when you lose something that is meaningful to you, but it's not to society or anyone else. This literally described what I was going through and somewhat helped. Okay, so I'm starting to understand the grief. The loss of what I'm feeling is starting to make more sense, but what I don't get is the guilt, like I'm doing something wrong. He's like, okay, what you've stated are things like, this makes you happy, but it feels like your job. If you have a free moment, this is what you do. You have a mountain of games that you need to platinum. It's kind of like you're trying to cross an invisible finish line that isn't actually there. I'm like, yeah, that's fairly accurate. You've stated that no one in your life really cares. You're not doing this to please anyone or make them think you're cool, yet in some strange way, that is exactly what you're doing. I'm like, yeah, that's also accurate. It sounds like you've created a fantasy that you didn't realize, and now you're grieving it. Not the trophies, not the site, the story you told yourself to get them. I'm good at this. I'm special. People notice. Except they didn't, and deep down, you knew it. It's like you're on stage. The lights are facing the stage, and you can't see the crowd. Now the house lights have come up, and you can see there's no one there. There never has been. You knew it, but now you can see it. You see the reality. The lights have come up, and the bubble has burst. The illusion is gone. This is self-deception maintenance. Your brain built a narrative to help you, but the story has collapsed. It doesn't matter that you say it's not a big deal. It's just a website. This is a little lie that your brain maintained to keep you going in these dark times. Brains do that. Brains are like a mate that constantly try and help you, but the problem is they're not qualified at the job. With eyes as wide as an anime character, I thought to myself, holy shit, he's right. This all adds up. This was a fantasy. It wasn't necessarily a lie when I say I wasn't doing this to please anyone or to feel worthy, but without realizing it, I was doing this so the fantasy people in this crowd would cheer the fantasy version of me on stage. I made this my job so people would applaud him. I went to bed strangely feeling better than I had in days and pondered everything that was said. He was right. He was absolutely right. But there was one more revelation left to discover, and I'm glad I worked it out on my own. The analogy of the house lights coming up was perfect, not just because I could see that no one was really there, I could see everything for how it was. I thought about how I'd made trophy hunting my job. It was the thing I did in my spare time and applied way too much mental energy and stress over. But it wasn't always like that. As you get older, you get nostalgic for the way things used to be. And like a lot of older gamers, I spend a lot of my time talking about how games used to be better. Now, while I do think this is true, this isn't exactly what I'm talking about. I mean this from a purely nostalgic point of view. I think about all the great gaming experiences that I've had throughout my life, all the worlds I've traveled to, how when I was a small kid I picked up a Master System controller for the first time and realized I could play Alex Kidd with just one hand, how I got every single Chaos Emerald in all the Sonic games on the Mega Drive, and how I rescued every single Mudokon in Oddworld, how I stealthed around enemies for the first time in Metal Gear Solid, and how I found a love for RPGs in Final Fantasy VII, a genre that I'm terrible at. I could go on and on at this point about all these pleasant memories, whether it be about a story that I experienced or something that I did. But the thing is, none of these stories revolve around trophies. None of these stories revolve around anything I had to do. It was what I wanted to do. It wasn't a job. And now that the fantasy popped, I can see the reality of what trophies did. They destroyed the fun. Now, I want to be really clear here. This isn't a rant about trophies or developers and that they shouldn't include them in games. This isn't an outward story. This is an inward story. This is a story about me and what I didn't realize what I was doing wrong. By making trophies my mission, my identity, I'd robbed myself of the joy of games. I think about all the times I would have a moment where I would think something like, I want to play the original Yakuza on the PS2. And then think, why would I play that when I still need to platinum the remake on PS5? I'd think about a game that I'd already platinumed but I wanted to play, and then go, yeah, but there's other games you need to do. I'm not really into multiplayer games, but from time to time something comes out like Arc Raiders, which I really want to play, but then go, that's going to take up too much of your time. There's other games you need to get to in your backlog. As I've stated here and there in the story, games have always been the best part of my life and took me away from my problems. If ever a conversation starts up about how games are the downfall of humanity, I always jump to their defense without a thought. Games are art, full of wonder and joy, but somehow I'd forgot that on my mission of finding fantasy meaning and achievement in my life. So this last bit is super corny and I apologize for that. This is the point of the whole video. Going through this journey of getting banned, having the dumbest crisis that's ever existed, learning why I do this, and more important, realizing that I don't have to, it's made something very special happen. I've fallen in love with games again. With all the problems in our lives, games should be a thing that takes us away from that. It should fill us with a sense of joy and wonder, like a kid waking up on a Saturday morning, ready to explore new worlds because there's no school. And I have that back. In the weeks between this happening and finishing this video, life genuinely has gotten better. And again, it's corny because we're talking about games and trophies, but hear me out. I'll wake up in the morning and do whatever I need to. Exercise, shower, study, whatever. But at no point am I thinking, man, I need to find some other people to get those last Gears of War trophies. I get on with my day. Then, when it's time to chill, there's excitement. That young version of me that I mentioned comes back. I'll play old retro games, try and get up to date with One Piece, watch every Godzilla movie without weirdly feeling bad that I've got to get through this backlog of games. Also, just quickly, this is transferred to shows, movies, and anything else that should be enjoyable. I'm not going, I really need to finish One Piece. It's, I want to sit and chill and watch One Piece. It's not some mountain to get lost on. It's the fun show it should be. So in conclusion, this is by no means a rant or a lecture. I have no qualms with PSNProfiles, although I don't exactly agree with their choices. It doesn't really matter. This isn't a hot take for developers to remove trophies, or if you like trophies, what the hell are you doing with your life? Some might even go, bro got banned from website, bro doesn't like trophies anymore, and neither should you. This is none of that. I mainly did this as a kind of therapy to get all these thoughts out of my head. Someone very important to me once said, follow your joy. And if trophies are your joy, go for it. The other reason that I made this video is maybe these words might slightly ring true to someone. Maybe you're in the same position, the same one I was in. And if that's the case, maybe take a quiet moment to think, have I made this my job? Have I made games a chore instead of a blessing? And if that's the case, maybe think, is this a job that I need to quit? So one last time, you're thinking to yourself, dude, all right, so what are you doing now? Are you getting trophies? Are you soldiering on? What are you doing? And the answer is quite simple and maybe a little anticlimactic. The answer is whatever I want. I truly have a different outlook on games. I might play an old game. I might play something modern with trophies. I mightn't get trophies. It's even possible I still might platinum something. I might even buy Arc Raiders. I feel free though to do whatever I want. There's no job, no obligation. There's no strange responsibility that I've given to myself. And if trophies happen, there's no sense of dread. I'm actually playing the multiplayer of Space Marines 2 right now. But there's a difference. There's no need. There's no have to. I want to. And if I change my mind, I'll stop. I'm enjoying games again. What's the saying? It's not the ending that counts, it's the journey. And in this case, it's not the platinum. It's the game that matters. To PSN Profiles, I thank you for genuinely changing my life, but more importantly, changing me for the better. I am genuinely and sincerely grateful. So one last time, if any of this rings true to you, maybe quit that job. Like I did. You might be happier. So on that note, I might go play a game. I think I'm going to play Broken Sword Reforged. Incidentally, it's the best point-and-click adventure game ever made if you've never played it. And maybe I'll platinum it. Maybe I won't. The cool thing is it doesn't matter anymore. And I'm so genuinely happy and content to say that. Okay, thanks, champions.